extremely complex, the whole maneuver, the landings. And they got taken out in a matter of seconds. I've never seen anything like it.
And you were able to watch this in real time.
Yeah, I don't forget, I've done some pretty good ones in other parts of the world. Okay, I've done some pretty good ones, but I've never seen anything like this. I was able to watch it in real time, and I watched every aspect of it, and I listened to the communication between, where we were in Florida and out in the field in Venezuela. And it was amazing to see the professionalism, the quality of leadership, the professionalism. General Raisin Gain is fantastic. Don't forget, we did another one not so long ago. It was called the knocking out of the Iranian nuclear threat, the nuclear power. That was unbelievable what they did there. And this is something that, I don't know, it's amazing. And to have a few injuries, but no death on our side is really amazing.
Mr. President, critics will say that strong action can risk escalation, but history has shown us that weakness can truly invite chaos. And this military operation clearly sends a message to our adversaries around the world, China, Iran, Russia, that we are no longer the weak administration that we had for 4 years under former President Biden, who tolerated narco-terrorism. What is next for the United States and Venezuela?
Well, we're very strong, and very importantly, if you look at drugs through the oceans, through the seas, they're down 97%. That's the boats are sort of related to this, as you know. The drugs are way down, and it's getting very, very tough. It's a whole different look. We have a whole different country. We have a country now that's respected. We have a country. I built the military in my first term, and they gave a little chunk of it away, but it was a lot. But it was a little chunk relative to what we built. But they gave it to Afghanistan so stupidly. It was one of the, compare this to Afghanistan, where we were a laughing stock all over the world. We're not a laughing stock anymore. No, we have the greatest military in the world by far. We have the greatest military equipment in the world by far. And you had to see this in real time. You had to see this, the professionalism and the bravery, everything about it. And you almost couldn't hold them back. It was like they wanted to go so badly. And most people would have said, I'll take a pass. I know that Charlie would have wanted to go because Charlie's a very brave person. I know a lot of other people would have said, I think I'll pass on this one. Let's watch it on television. It's been amazing to see how good they were, how professional they were, how incredible the equipment we have is. I mean, the level of equipment and to see how it worked so perfectly. And if you compare this to attacks on Iran over the years with helicopters crashing into each other, the whole thing was a mess. The Jimmy Carter situation, which was a mess, and every other situation compared to this, nobody's ever seen like this. Look, the Iranian attack, knocking out their nuclear power was big. We had peace in the Middle East, and we have it. Without that, you could never have peace in the Middle East. We knocked them out, and look what's happening now to Iran, but we knocked it out. That was, it could not have been better, and this could not have been better. I don't even know which is, these are both really important. If you think about equal and importance, I wonder how it's going to be rated, but knocking out the nuclear power of, think of it, they were ready, they were within 2 months, they would have been a nuclear power. And comparing that to this in a certain different way, I think this might have been actually more complex.
Well, it's interesting.
But that was something that was amazing.
It's interesting, Mr. President. We've looked, our own Lucas Tomlinson, our reporter here. I don't know if you knew this intentionally, but the capture of Maduro and his wife, it coincides with the 6th anniversary of your taking out the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's Qasem Soleimani. Interestingly, it's six years after. But let me ask you a question, Mr. President.
Because that was the third thing, and we have a fourth. We got Soleimani. We have taken out so many. Look at what we did to the leader of ISIS, who's no longer with us, right? That everybody was after for 20 years, and we got him. We've done a lot, but this was something, maybe because it's fresh in our minds, because again, the Iranian situation was so big, knocking that out, and the B-2 bomber, every single missile hit its target, and the target was an air shaft.
Right.
Dark at night. Think of that. Dark at night, no moon. You couldn't see a thing, and every missile went right through that air shaft and just obliterated the place. So that was amazing, and this was amazing.
I wonder, Mr. President, I want to ask you because from your Vice President, J.D. Vance, said that the message is pretty clear. The drug trafficking must stop. So was this operation a message that you're sending to Mexico, to Claudia Sheinbaum, the president there?
Well, it wasn't meant to be, and we're very friendly with her. She's a good woman, but the cartels are running Mexico. She's not running Mexico. The cartels are running Mexico. And we could be politically correct and be nice and say, oh, yes, she is. No, she's very, she's very frightened of the cartels. They're running Mexico. And I've asked her numerous times, would you like us to take out the cartels? No, Mr. President. No, please. So we have to do something because we lost. The real number is 300,000 people, in my opinion. I'd like to say 100,000. 100,000 is a lot of people, but the real number is 300,000 people, and we lost it to drugs, and they come in through the southern border, mostly the southern border. Plenty come in through Canada, too, by the way, in case you don't know. But they come in through the southern border, and something's going to have to be done with Mexico.
Why did you decide to do this morning?
Are you talking about calling you people or the guy?
No, you're taking it out.
I'm not sure which is worse, if you want to know. I'm calling you. I haven't spoken to anybody else because Charlie Hurd has been a great friend of mine for a long time. He was with me when it was not fashionable. And those are the people I liked. He was with me, Charlie, when it was not at all fashionable. So that's the reason I'm doing this. And your show is great. You do a great job. What a good team.
But I meant, why did you make the decision to take out Maduro this morning? And what was Maduro doing when our guys came in on him?
So we were going to do this 4 days ago, but the weather was not perfect. The weather has to be perfect. And we had just the perfect weather. We had, very good. A little bit few more clouds than we thought, but it was good. We waited 4 days. We were going to do this 4 days ago, 3 days ago, 2 days ago. And then all of a sudden it opened up and we said go. And I'll tell you, it was just amazing. And what was he doing? He was in a very highly guarded, like a fortress, actually. He was in a fortress. That we had nobody killed was amazing. I think we had nobody killed, I have to say, because a couple of guys were hit, but they came back and they're supposed to be in pretty good shape. But that we had nobody killed, that we lost no aircraft, everything came back. We got it all back. One of them was hit pretty hard, but a helicopter, but we got it back. But it just was the right time to do it. We had to do it because it's a war. We're losing 300,000 people a year. We don't lose that much in a war. We had to do it. We had what they call a safety space, where it's solid steel all around. He didn't get that space closed. He was trying to get into it, but he got bum rushed so fast that he didn't get into that. We were prepared. We had massive blowtorches and everything else that you need to get through that steel, but we didn't need it. He didn't make it to that area of the house.
Mr. President, your war on narcoterrorism from our southern border and beyond clearly will save American lives. Moving forward for Venezuela, what do you think is next for the Venezuelan people now that you have removed Maduro so that he can face American justice?
Well, we're making that decision now. We can't take a chance on letting somebody else run and just take over where he left off. So we're making that decision now. We'll be involved in it very much. And we want to do liberty for the people. We want to, have a great relationship. I think the people of Venezuela are very, very happy because they love the United States. They were run by essentially a dictatorship or worse. It couldn't have been worse. It was a terrible thing that was taking place in Venezuela. But look, tremendous numbers of people were being killed through drugs. And what they did to our country in sending prisoners and people from mental institutions and drug lords and everything, they sent them by the hundreds of thousands of people into our country. And that is just unforgivable. That's why, he wanted to negotiate at the end, and I didn't want to negotiate. I said, no, we got to do it. He was trying to negotiate at the end. You probably saw that. And trying hard to make a deal. And I said, this could have been a very foolish thing if it didn't work out. But I said, no, we can't do it. What he did with drugs was bad. What he did with a lot of other things was bad. But what he did was sending hundreds of thousands of Tren de Aragua and drug dealers. And they emptied out their jails into our country. They emptied out all of their mental institutions into our country. What he did there, and every other thing, is unforgivable.
Mr. President, you're already getting reaction from members of Congress on both sides. One Democrat, Jim McGovern, is saying that you did not get authorization from Congress. And he says Trump just launched an unjustified illegal strike on Venezuela. Wanted to get your reaction to that.
Well, if these are weak, stupid people, and they're trying to save themselves from almost destroying our country. If I didn't get elected, our country would not, I don't even think we'd have a country right now. We were heading down the path of destruction. We had inflation, we had high prices. They're the ones that caused high prices, not us. We're bringing the prices way down. We have oil now, in many places, $1.99 a gallon. And, when you do oil, everything follows, but everything is following. But no, they would have destroyed our country. If we didn't get elected, if Kamala or a Joe type got elected, that group got elected. But if Kamala got elected, I don't think at this point we would even have a country. We were laughed at all over the world. The money was flowing out. Everybody was leaving. The companies were leaving. The people were leaving. The wealth was leaving. We have $18 trillion coming back into our country, the biggest number in the history of the world. The second biggest number was $3 trillion. We're at $18 trillion, and it's building factories and plants. It's doing things that no country has ever seen before. But as far as last night is concerned, it was really genius. What they did is genius. And the Democrats, maybe they'll take a shot. They'll take a shot. All they do is complain. They don't talk about, they should say, you know what, we did a great job. We're stopping drugs from coming into this country. And nobody's been able to do it until we came along. But they should say, great job. They shouldn't say, oh, gee, maybe it's not constitutional. The same old stuff that we've been hearing for years and years and years. They did an incredible job. These men and women that went out there last night, the courage they had, going into an area where, all the lights were turned on. We turned off almost all of the lights in Caracas. I mean, this thing was so organized. And they go into a dark space with machine guns facing them all over the place. And then you hear from a guy that I'd never even heard of him. But you hear from...
All right, so again, those were some of the comments that we did receive from President Trump as he spoke over the phone with folks there at Fox News. That was just a couple hours ago. Now, I do want to remind you, coming up here in just a matter of moments, we expect that President Trump will address the nation on all of this. Coming in from Mar-a-Lago, we should be getting a live image as that is set to take place here at about 11 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to bring those to you here live as we always do. Now, as I mentioned a bit earlier, we have been combing through this indictment, 25 pages worth of information about the indictment against Maduro and his wife. And as we take a live look at this hour over Caracas here, this is in Venezuela, I do want to bring you what we learned from that, as the indictment does accuse Maduro of leading a, quote, corrupt, illegitimate government that for decades has leveraged government power to protect and promote illegal activity, including drug trafficking, end quote. Now, it does allege that the drug trafficking efforts, quote, enriched and entrenched Venezuela's political and military elite. U.S. authorities there alleging that Maduro partnered with, quote, some of the most violent and prolific drug traffickers and narco-terrorists in the world to bring tons of cocaine into the U.S. Again, that is according to that 25-page indictment. Authorities estimate that as much as 250 tons of cocaine were trafficked through Venezuela by 2020, and the drugs were moved on go-fast vessels, fishing boats, and container ships, or via planes from clandestine airstrips. Again, all of this coming in from those documents. Now, if you are just joining us here, President Trump revealing the U.S. launched strikes in Venezuela, and we do have video of some of that I do want to pop up on your screen right here. Again, this is from just hours ago, as President Trump says that they have captured the Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife, all happening here amid Trump's war on the drug cartels, which has seen strikes on suspected drug-carrying vessels off the coast of Venezuela. And these are just some of the videos of those strikes released by the Department of War. President Trump saying that Maduro and his wife, who have both been indicted in the U.S., are now en route to New York to face prosecution, and they are en route via U.S. ship. So we should see them arrive. We should get those live images here. And of course, we'll bring those to you live as we get them. Right now, I do want to bring in a friend of the show here, Mark Chandler. He is Director of Government Relations at Coastal Carolina University and also a former senior defense intelligence official. Thank you so much, Mark, for taking the time to be here with us this morning. Obviously, a lot of developments.
Oh, gosh, you're welcome. You're right. There is a lot happening today.
For sure. And first off, just as a former senior defense intelligence official, I did want to ask, based on what we know so far, what has stood out to you about the operation and really what we saw play out?
Well, I think one of the things that really stood out to me was the operational security surrounding this operation. You know, you get a lot of these operations, and the critical part to success is focused on operational security. Make sure no one knows what we're about to do, because we're putting our military forces in harm's way. And so I think the fact that they did that was critical leading up to this operation. The second thing that stands out to me was the phenomenal intelligence work behind this operation. Number one, the forces had to rehearse this for weeks. You know, there was talk you just had up there about, you know, a mock buildup of the facility where Maduro was living. And so they had to have great intelligence to be able to get the entire diagrams, the layout of that facility, where Maduro was, what we call a pattern of life. So in other words, Maduro would go to the presidential offices. He would travel this way. He would be at his house at this location. Here's the guards around him. So it takes a lot of time to develop that finite type of intelligence. So hats off not only to the operators who conducted this, but the intelligence personnel that helped build up this information to facilitate the success for this. It was critical and a great intelligence operation.
And one thing that's interesting and stood out to a lot of people, President Trump telling Fox there that, yes, there were some injuries here. However, he says it does not appear that any Americans were killed in the process. How does that kind of detail how intricate this process was for this operation? The fact that no Americans, as of right now, to our knowledge, were killed in the strikes there.
Well, you know, again, that's absolute. It speaks to the professionalism of our military forces, especially Delta and the 160th. They're the elite of the elite when they go in and we conduct these type of operations. So not only did they have good intelligence, they rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. One of your previous guests talked about, you know, working all your way through the rehearsal aspect so that you can be prepared for any kind of contingency that comes up in these operations. So this kind of reminds me of the Bin Laden raid back when we did did that. We had a mock-up of the facility, and the SEALs rehearsed that operation tremendously to ensure that once the forces got on the objective, they knew what was likely to happen, where everything was, and they get in and they get out. It was a quick operation. I think what you see with the bombings, there was a lot of taking out some of the assets, and there's probably going to, if they reveal it, a lot of information about other aircraft flying off the coast of Venezuela, jamming communications, ensuring that the Venezuelan military could not react fast enough to stop us from conducting this operation. So they went in, they did what we call actions on the objective. They took Maduro and his wife, they captured them and then pulled out. They did that so quickly. And I believe some of the bombing campaign was to stop some of the reinforcements that would go to the palace, but also to distract the Venezuelan military, kind of think that we're coming in a different place. All of this facilitated the moves on the palace itself, where Maduro was being held, so that they could get in and get out as quickly as possible. I think when it comes down to it, and they reveal the details, you'll find that they were actually on the objective a very limited amount of time for something that you would consider this major an operation.
And of course, if you're watching us here, we did have that live image coming in out of Mar-a-Lago. It did go down here, but we expect the feed will come back at some point here shortly. And of course, we're going to get those full remarks from President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. We'll bring those to you in full, commercial free. That's what we do here on Live Now from Fox. Mark, what questions do you hope that maybe President Trump will answer during this news conference, or Hegseth, that maybe we don't know at this point?
Well, I'd like an update on the wounded. If there were in fact anybody wounded, I'd like to know about that, just so that we know that it's kind of a reminder to the American populace that when we do these operations, there are human beings that we are putting in harm's way. And so I would like to hear an update on that, just to know that, one, there were no killed in action on this. We conducted the operation. And then I think what you're probably going to see, and I think some of the political opposition, whether they listen to it or not, kind of help the American people understand the legal case that was laid out in conducting this operation. Not only was Delta involved in the 160th, but there were law enforcement personnel involved on this raid, and that goes to the legal aspect of conducting this. So perhaps lay that case out to help the American public understand a little bit better on this. As I said, maybe the opposition will understand. I don't know, if you want to support Maduro, his drug capabilities to counter his narco-terrorism aspects, then you're going to argue that way anyway and not listen to the facts. So I'd like to see that. What I hope that they don't reveal are some of the intricacies of the operation itself. We know Maduro was taken to the USS Iwo Jima. That's what we call a large deck amphibious ship off the coast of Venezuela. A lot of Marines on that. So that's probably the staging ground from where the operation was conducted. Now they're going to move Maduro onward onto New York, get him onto an airfield, move him in an aircraft to New York to face the charges that he was indicted on later. So let's lay out some of those aspects, but not give all the operational details.
For sure. And I actually want to read you this statement that came in a bit earlier. We read this to you as we received it, but this is from Venezuela's defense chief, and it's on the Maduro capture. This is the Minister of Defense who said, quote, "The Venezuelan people have been victims of the most criminal military aggression by the United States. The barbarity of the invading forces has desecrated our sacred soil, even striking civilian urban areas with missiles and rockets fired from combat helicopters. We are currently gathering information on the injured and the dead. We fully support the decree declaring a state of external emergency across the entire national territory. And as a result, the men and women of the armed forces are carrying out the instructions of President Nicolas Maduro, just deploying all of our capabilities. We will win. Long live the homeland." End quote. Again, that is from the Minister of Defense there in Venezuela. What does that say to you? Does that talk about escalation? Is that a threat? What do you make of that?
I think he had to come out and try to put up some machismo, if you will, for the Venezuelan populace, but not so much the Venezuelan populace, because this is not a popular regime in Venezuela. I think more for the military. He's speaking to the military, pushing back on the United States, someone that violated their sovereignty. These are kind of boilerplate statements that you'd expect. And I have to add this a little bit about him, Josh. He is one of the inner circle, Maduro's inner circle. The vice president, the interior minister, and the defense minister were all part of the same group who helped maintain this draconian control over the Venezuelan leadership and government. So I think when you look at that, I would expect him to say that. I don't see a military response from Venezuela, though. I see them really concerned about a rising on the streets, a protest against the Maduro regime. The regime has not been replaced. So now they're trying to scramble to see who's gonna get in charge of these three: the vice president, the interior minister, and defense minister. But they need to consolidate control of the military, because the military is what keeps them in power. So you're going to see some jockeying for that throughout the day or the next couple of days.
And there on the left-hand side of your screen, you're taking a live look over Mar-a-Lago, where those remarks should begin shortly. Now, we did have a live image that I tried to pop up there on the left-hand side of your screen. It showed a lot of press there at Mar-a-Lago for this as they were making their final preparations. Unfortunately, the shot went out by the time I took it, but we should be getting that shot back here in just a second, as those remarks are set to begin in just about 2.5 minutes here. Mark, what do we need to be watching for over the next coming hours, days, and maybe even weeks here?
Well, I think you need to go back to that statement you just had on the screen there, Josh. And I think looking at what the Venezuelan leadership, number one, how they're going to consolidate control. Do they maintain control of the military? Because as I said, that's what gives them the power. There is a chance. Venezuela has a military, not anything as capable as the United States. They could try something, and I would call it outlandish, to go against the U.S. military, try to take some sort of counteraction at their low level. They might have a modicum of success of doing something or getting close to one of our assets, but I think they're going to hold back on trying to do something significant, because they know that the U.S. military could pretty much take out anything they need to do. And we don't have a fight with the Venezuelan people. This doesn't look like we're trying to, one, overthrow a regime, two, go against the Venezuelan people. There are repressed people by this leadership. So hopefully you could see an uprising in the streets. Again, it's going to go to how the military kind of clamps down. That's what you're going to see. You're going to see pro-Maduro protests. They're going to turn out the population. They're going to get people in the streets to make it look like Maduro was more popular than he is. So you'll see that. It'll be choreographed. None of this is going to be a spontaneous support of Maduro across the Venezuelan population.
And I did want to mention here, it actually sounds like the news conference with President Trump might be starting on time, because again, we're waiting on that live image to come back, but we did just get the alert from the White House, which normally comes out really just a few minutes before he does walk up to the podium. So again, we're waiting on that shot to come in. We will definitely have it for you, and we'll make sure to bring it to you in full, commercial free. We also know from President Trump that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth should be there as well to possibly answer questions, but at least make remarks on the situation there. We also have these live images that are coming in here out of Caracas and other areas of Venezuela, where you can see folks who are not necessarily supporters of Maduro in the street. Many of them are actually there because they're trying to piece together exactly what has happened over the past several hours here. And I did want to get your take on this, Mark. For the new regime there in Venezuela, does the U.S., and this is based on really your expertise, I'm not sure if you'll have the full answer, but would the U.S. play any sort of role in any of that?
Just clarification, Josh, are you talking about the legally elected regime that's been kind of in exile for a while? Or are you talking about how this new cabal is really taking over after Maduro left?
I'm going to say both. I want to get your take on both of those.
Okay. All right. First off, I think you are going to see a consolidation of power. There actually may be a jockeying of power. The vice president, she doesn't have a lot of control there. She doesn't necessarily have the backing of the military. So you could see either a co-leadership between the interior minister and the defense minister, or you could see one of those try to take more charge. Outside chance, you could see the military come in and say, we need to step in and take control of this. So you could have that. if there is some dissension in there, we could see a fracturing of that leadership as it goes through. I don't think we're going to be able to see the opposition just fly back into Venezuela and take over. You're going to have to get rid of this core group of Maduro supporters, those people who were involved. I think the U.S. can increase its messaging. We can increase messaging to the Venezuelan people, but this really now has to come from within. So I think we can support the opposition, and work our way through building that case. You're going to hear a lot of noise from the international community. Violation of sovereignty. We've already heard that from Colombia and Mexico. The UN's going to speak out. Cuba, Iran, Russia, China, they're all going to speak out against the United States and the illegal operations. But I think that's just noise. Let's put that in the noise category and see what we can do to build a popular support for the legally elected president if we can get her back in the country.
I also wanted to ask you, kind of going back to something that we were talking about earlier, also want to mention that it looks like we are going to be getting that image back here shortly of President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. So that kind of indicates to us this is going to start in a matter of moments. So the second it does, you'll be able to watch it in full right here on Live Now. But one thing I do want to go back to is something that you mentioned. You were talking about the fact that there were no leaks. The information did not get out there ahead of these strikes. Based on what you've seen, is that surprising? Because normally you do have folks who behind the scenes will maybe give a tip to somebody and say, this is what's going to happen, prepare for this, that sort of thing. So is that surprising that the information didn't get out there? And also, what role does that play in kind of helping with the operation?
Well, first off, I am surprised that there were no leaks on this, and I'm very pleased to that. One of the biggest things when I worked on the Joint Chiefs of the Staff, we would conduct these type of operations around the world, and unfortunately, somebody who felt they had the knowledge and the power of that knowledge wanted to leak something to the press. That puts our forces in harm's way, and I really, really despise those type of leaks that we go out there just for somebody to show they had that information. So good on the administration for this one. I've heard talk this morning about notifying Congress. The executive branch does have to notify Congress, but it doesn't say they have to notify them before the operation. And every administration I worked for, we were hesitant to notify in advance, what we call the Gang of Eight, the leaders of the House and the Senate and the intelligence committees. So when we looked at that, we wouldn't notify them for the purpose of operational security, OPSEC. We didn't want that to leak out, especially if they were going to speak out against something. They'll notify them today. They'll give them a full mission briefing and let them know what happened. They'll lay out the legal case for it, and that's fine afterwards. But I think I want to hear any conversations today about how they weren't notified, because I can go back to Democratic and Republican administrations and we would not notify in advance of these operations. So that's good for OPSEC. I'm glad we have that.
Yeah, and right now you can see we did get that live image coming back here as those final preparations are being made for President Trump to make those remarks. Now you can see the stand is there, and there is a lot of media, I can tell you, that are in this room. Let me pop up this other angle that we do have for you. Look at all of those reporters on the left-hand side of your screen, and that is just a few of them. Again, President Trump expected to walk in here in just a matter of moments to address the nation on this Venezuela operation, the capture of Maduro and his wife. We're going to bring you those remarks in full the second that we do get them. And we're looking at all of this, kind of gathering the latest information that is coming into our newsroom. Mark, anything that you think we missed? Anything you want to make sure to add here before I let you go?
Josh, this is a highly fluid situation. You're doing a great job covering it, trying to keep the public informed about how this is evolving. I think you covered everything really well. I would look for internal dissension inside Venezuela and see if the military cracks, or because I'll tell you one other thing we didn't address, Josh, is they had to have somebody on the inside to help get us this information on Maduro's location. That's part of a human network. If we got that, are we starting to get fissures inside the Venezuelan leadership? That would be good if we could start to crack that and start to open up some sort of fissure in this leadership group that's running Venezuela illegally right now. So I think we can watch for that over the next few days.
And actually, would you be able to go a little bit more in depth on that? Because I hadn't even really thought about that. And that's something that hasn't been mentioned, is that it sounds like there are some insiders there in Venezuela that are helping the U.S. And I would imagine that's got to be pretty standard. We know, for instance, you and I discuss Israel a lot and the situation going on there. We know there were people, for instance, the pagers that blew up with Hezbollah. There was somebody inside to help make all of that happen. So you have to imagine that there's some people there in Venezuela who want to help out the U.S. with all of this.
Yeah, there are dissatisfied people within Venezuela, and that's what we try to look for, is look at that and see if we can gain some access to those individuals, who want to help their country, and they do help their country by helping us. So we get that information, we get that access to them, and that I talked earlier about developing a pattern of life, Maduro's pattern of life, what his daily schedule was, what bedroom he's in, where he eats dinner, and all those finite details. So we can work on that, get that inside access to information. Now, those people are taking a great risk, because if they're discovered, and then in a regime like Maduro's, they're all the time purging people they feel disloyal, whether they're right or not. So they'll go in and purge them. So somebody took significant risks to support the United States internally. I think that speaks a lot to Maduro's unpopularity with the general population, but also let's look at how we can develop this source and then move forward on some of the, actually, when I talk actions on the objective earlier, we were talking about, okay, where are we going to move? How's he going to be? Where's he going to be? What's the security outside his bedroom? He had a lot of Cuban support inside Venezuela. His closest ally is Cuba. And a lot of reports said that Cuban guards were actually his closest guards. So you're looking at getting some finite information from these sources, and something that we will use to kind of work in the final bits of the actions, as I said, actions on the objective.
All right, Mark Chandler, thank you so much for taking the time, as always, to be here with us and helping to break it all down. We definitely appreciate it.
Josh, you're quite welcome, and good luck covering the situation today. It's going to keep evolving.
Oh, for sure. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And you are taking a live look here in Mar-a-Lago once again. We did get a 5-minute warning, so probably closer to about 4 minutes now before these remarks do begin. So looks like they're running just a little bit behind, but by 11:11, 11:12, somewhere around there, we should have President Trump. And as I mentioned, we are going to bring this to you in full. That is what we do here on Live Now from Fox, and you can watch it commercial free. We also know that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth will be a part of this news conference as well. What I want to do is pull up this image right here. Now, we do have this statement that came in from the defense minister. This was over in Venezuela, where Mark and I were kind of just discussing this, but he said the Venezuelan people have been victims of the most criminal military aggression by the United States. The barbarity of the invading forces has desecrated our sacred soil, even striking civilian urban areas with missiles and rockets fired from combat helicopters. We are currently gathering information on the injured and dead, so seemingly confirming that some people were injured and dead as a result of the U.S. strikes there on Venezuela. They did say, we fully support the decree declaring a state of external emergency across the entire national territory, and as a result, the men and women of the armed forces are carrying out the instructions of President Nicolas Maduro, deploying all of our capabilities. We will win. Long live the homeland. And of course, likely that we will see President Trump specifically address that as he does take to the podium here in a second. Now, we also heard from Vice President J.D. Vance, who said the president offered multiple off-ramps, but was very clear throughout this process that drug trafficking must stop and the stolen oil must be returned to the United States. Maduro is the newest person to find out that President Trump means what he says. Kudos to our brave special operators who pulled off a truly impressive operation. He went on to say, and PSA for everyone saying this was illegal, Maduro has multiple indictments in the United States for narco-terrorism. You don't get to avoid justice for drug trafficking in the United States because you live in a palace in Caracas. Again, we're monitoring the feeds right here, and we are awaiting those comments from President Donald Trump that should be getting underway here in a matter of moments, and we're going to bring them to you in full. That's what we do here on Live Now from Fox. And as we are just past the top of the hour here, it is right now 11:10 on the East Coast and 8:10 on the West Coast. It is Saturday, January 3rd, My name is Josh Breslow, and we are going to continue to bring you coverage throughout the day as we get much more information on the detainment, so to speak, of Nicolas Maduro, the leader there in Venezuela, as well as his wife, both of whom were detained there by U.S. officials overnight, really just hours ago, as there were large-scale strikes that were conducted by the U.S. And what you're probably seeing is I keep looking down, and I did want to point out that the reason for that is we are keeping an eye on the different feeds coming in, and I'm trying to make sure that the second that we see President Trump walk in, we are able to bring that to you in full. Again, this is a live look at the stage as we learn the latest on all of this. So if you are just joining us, we did learn some information from President Trump as he spoke with Fox News a bit earlier on this morning. President Trump revealing that the U.S. did launch those strikes in Venezuela and captured Nicolas Maduro and his wife. This all happening amid Trump's war on the drug cartels, which has seen strikes on suspected drug-carrying vessels off the coast of Venezuela. Now, President Trump saying that Maduro and his wife, who have both been indicted in the U.S., are en route to New York to face prosecution. The indictment itself, about 25 pages in length, we were looking through it, and essentially it accuses Maduro of leading a, quote, corrupt, illegitimate government that for decades has leveraged government power to protect and promote illegal activity, including drug trafficking. It alleges that the drug trafficking efforts, quote, enrich and entrench Venezuela's political and military elite. U.S. authorities allege that Maduro partnered with, quote, some of the most violent and prolific drug traffickers and narco-terrorists in the world to bring tons of cocaine into the U.S., again, according to the documents that we were able to get our hands on here. Authorities estimate that as much as 250 tons of cocaine were trafficked through Venezuela by 2020. The drugs were moved on go-fast vessels, fishing boats, and container ships or via planes from clandestine airstrips. Again, we are following all of the details. We did hear from President Trump a bit earlier, who said that Maduro and his wife are en route via U.S. ship over to the U.S., specifically to New York, where they have been indicted. We are also waiting to see if we do get
President Trump soon, y'all. Trump is going to address the nation. We back at the desk, y'all.
We have not been able to independently confirm that.
Yo, back at the desk, y'all.
Artificial intelligence generated. Once we do get
back at the desk,
yeah. Show you those images here as soon as we get them on Live Now from Fox. We also have
this is Live Now from the news, man.
Reporters are out here getting ready to go. This should begin momentarily, as we did get that 5-minute warning just about 6 minutes ago, meaning we can see where President Trump is going to enter into the room, that door that's open right there at Mar-a-Lago. And if you are just joining us, do want to let you know that he has been at Mar-a-Lago for the Christmas and New Year's holiday with his family there celebrating. So he is holding this news conference from Mar-a-Lago, which is where he watched this operation, he says, unfold here. So he's expected to talk about that. We know that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth will also be there to make comments. There are a lot of media members, so you have to imagine that President Trump will likely take some questions from reporters. That is normally what happens in a situation like this. The president is normally very vocal and takes a lot of questions. So we expect that will be the case, as there are so many questions that are left unanswered at this point. We are still awaiting the arrival of President Trump. He's, of course, there at Mar-a-Lago, but should be walking through the door any second now. I just wanted to lift up the audio really briefly to see if we could potentially hear any of the chatter there in the background. And at this point, not really hearing much of anything other than folks just kind of texting on their phones, trying to get all the information out there that they know so far. President Trump speaking with Fox News a bit earlier, as I mentioned, providing just a little bit more information. But we expect that we will get a lot more coming up, as we also hear from Secretary Hegseth in just a matter of moments. This was slated to start around 11 a.m. Eastern time, but it's running just a few minutes behind. Right now it's 11:15 Eastern, and we also know that We got that 5-minute warning maybe about 7-8 minutes ago, which means this should begin momentarily. And the reason I'm showing you this angle right now, we're going to go back to the head-on angle in a second. But the reason we are showing this is because you'll actually see as President Trump does enter. And I'm combing through that indictment, as I mentioned a bit earlier, just looking for any other tidbits of information. As I mentioned here, it is about 25 pages in length. You can see it right here on your screen as we take a live look. We're kind of looking through the different pages to see what other information is listed about the charges against Nicolas Maduro, but also against his wife. Both of them currently, according to officials, are en route to New York via U.S. ship. We are waiting to see, as we should potentially get some live images of them. Now, it is also important to note that cameras are not allowed inside a federal court, so we likely won't be able to get live images as they do face a judge, so to speak, potentially later on today. All of that kind of still in flux as we wait to get more details on that. But if we get any sort of live images, as you can imagine, you're going to see them right here on live.
I want to see what the gangster President Trump got to say, y'all. I want to see what he got to say, man. Here he comes. Here he comes, man. This is a live look in, man. I'm back at the desk, man. I'm making some beef links, man. I had a nice good walk.
You heard someone there say in the background they're thinking about 2 minutes. So it
2 minutes. It's 2 minutes away, y'all.
2-minute warning coming in.
2-minute warning.
They are zooming in on the door.
They zooming in, huh?
Also,
all right, I'll put the camera on.
Side of your screen, that is Fox's Lucas Tomlinson.
We'll put the camera on, man.
Pretty frequently to break down
how y'all feeling, man?
On situations just like this one.
It's President Trump, man.
Get him on later on today to break down everything you want.
Break down everything.
Trump, what we know, let's still have to figure out. But this news conference set to
it was brick out there, man. I made it back in though.
We know these things don't always start on time, so it looks like we may be getting that 2-minute warning, which will indicate that it starts sometime.
I made it back in, man. It was brick out there, y'all.
I've not actually seen the White House feed itself start yet. Normally, that's another indicator that this is about to begin. However, that has not happened yet.
Right, that has not happened yet, they say.
They believe this was
so let me go over here.
It looks like folks are ushering somebody in, so I do want to pay attention to see if that is the president.
Is that the president? The president out here moving like a gangster. What y'all think, man?
All right, looks like they were maybe trying to get another reporter or photographer in there. You can see they're pretty jam-packed together. Now, if you're not familiar with everything that did play out this morning, we know that President Trump did confirm that Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife were captured by the U.S. hours ago, and they're aboard a U.S. warship headed over to New York City, where they are going to face prosecution.
Warship, man. War.
Trump confirmed on Truth
War.
that the U.S. conducted this quote-unquote.
Yo, Trump ain't playing war, man. That was the act of war, man.
In an interview with Fox News that we played for you here just
that was the act of war.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth would be at this news conference to talk about the operation and exactly how it played out.
It was the act of war.
We did hear from Trump. He said, quote, U.S. forces practiced by building an exact replica of the house where Maduro and his wife were captured. So they did practice the operation.
That was the act of war, man.
Delayed by 4 days due to weather. So it was slated to happen just about 4 days ago.
For New Year's, they was trying to do this, y'all.
In the end of December.
For New Year's, man. Come on up in here, smash the like button. Likes are free. Donate to the channel. Put $1 in the Cash App. All right, $1.
He did reveal earlier on this morning as well that Maduro in the southern district of New York. Maduro, she says, has been charged with several different counts, including narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices against the U.S. Bondi added, quote, they will soon face the full wrath of American justice on American soil in, quote unquote, American courts. We are still awaiting the arrival of President Trump. He is there at Mar-a-Lago, but is likely making those final preparations before he does enter into the area. Now, Lucas Tomlinson has been tweeting, as I mentioned. He's been posting on X and said, quote, Trump told Fox and Friends the operation to capture Maduro was delayed. Quote, we were going to do this 4 days ago, but the weather was not good. Again, I'm showing you this head-on shot because we should see the president pop in just a second, and we want to make sure that we have that for you in full the second it does begin. What I want to do, if possible, is go through some of the posts here that we are seeing from different officials who are reacting here, including folks with the Trump administration, but also others as well. We're hearing from Congressman Dan Goldman, and I do want to mention we're going to read you posts that are coming from both sides of the aisle here, Republican and Democrat. Dan Goldman saying Trump's unilateral operation last night was an illegal act of war without Congress's authorization. Maduro is a dictator who has oppressed the Venezuelan people, but our Constitution does not yield for bad people. If Congress is to survive as an institution, the Republican majority must join us, exercising our power to hold this administration accountable for this flagrant violation of the Constitution. As of right now, a lot of the posts we're seeing, as you can imagine, are Republicans who are praising this and Democrats who are against it, saying that it was an illegal act of war. And many of them saying, as you heard Mark Chandler say a short time ago, that essentially they believe that they should have been notified prior to this, but Mark making the point, as well as Wiz, who we had earlier, that they didn't want to reveal anything. They didn't want any kind of potential leak, and they were able to avoid that, as this here was a surprise to so many people when they woke up. Rick Scott, a Republican there in Florida, senator, saying Maduro was never the president of Venezuela. He's a thug and narco-terrorist whose regime enacted terror on the people of Venezuela and sent drugs into our country to kill our kids and grandkids. Today, I'm grateful that thanks to President Trump's leadership and our brave military, he will be held accountable. And we're not showing these to you on the screen. I'm just reading them because I want to leave up the shot so we can see when President Trump does walk in. And as we continue to go through these here, Senator Ruben Gallego saying there is no justification for the United States to be at war with Venezuela. I lived through the consequences of an illegal war sold to the American people with lies. We swore we'd keep those mistakes. Yet here we are again. The American people did not ask for this. Congress did not authorize this. And our service members should not be sent into harm's way for another unnecessary conflict. As I mentioned, a lot of Democrats coming out against this and Republicans praising it. We are going to have those lawmakers on throughout the day to share their thoughts, their views, as it does appear that those lawmakers should actually be getting a briefing at some point in the coming days to update them on all of this, including exactly how it did play out. This one is coming in from leader John Boone, who says for years, Nicolas Maduro, the cartel he leads, and other cartels in Latin America have trafficked drugs into the United States, which have killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. President Trump's decisive action to disrupt the unacceptable status quo and apprehend Maduro through the execution of a valid Department of Justice warrant is an important first step to bring in the justice for the drug crimes for which he has been indicted in the United States. I am grateful for the brave men and women of our armed forces who carried out this necessary action. I spoke to Secretary Rubio early this morning, and I look forward to receiving further briefings from the administration on this operation as part of its comprehensive counter-narcotics strategy when the Senate returns to Washington next week. I can imagine a lot of these briefings, though, would be behind closed doors. We're not going to be able to actually get inside there. Now, potentially we will get remarks, though. Sometimes lawmakers will go into these meetings, they'll walk out, and they'll come up to our roving camera to make some comments there. Thomas Massey, also a Republican who has been very critical of President Trump, saying, if this action were constitutionally sound, the Attorney General wouldn't be tweeting that they've arrested the president of a sovereign country and his wife for possessing guns in violation of a 1934
violation
law. Again,
a violation, y'all.
Very critical of President Trump in the past.
Violation.
that is just coming in here.
Hit the like button, man. We on a different type of time over here.
In just a matter of moments.
It's a new year, man. Some of y'all are still moving like whatever.
It is now 11:25, and we have received several different 2-minute warnings, 5-minute warnings. However, as you can see, the president has not walked in.
He has not walked in yet, man. All right, we got 3 likes over there. Thank you for those 3 likes. Let's run the likes up. Donate to the channel, the desk.
Asking Fox right now if there has been any kind of update on the timing. We know that President Trump and Secretary Shanewz are probably
that was an act of war, man.
Providing the latest briefing to each other.
That was an act of war.
The Trump administration, so they can be kind of up to date on all of this when they do speak to the media in just a matter of moments, and more importantly than the media, speaking to the nation as a whole.
Oh man, let's listen to that.
I got the viral boneless couch because I needed a new couch and I didn't want to pay a few $1,000s, and I was curious to see if it's as good as everyone says. First, it does explode out of the packaging, which was really fun to set up. It is super soft. I love that. And I actually couldn't believe how firm it is. It's pretty heavy, but the 2 parts do not come apart. I did several jump tests just to see. I'm actually really happy with it. For the price.
There was a situation at Club 662 where RZA, Wu-Tang Clan, tried to get into the VIP section.
No, he was trying to get in the club.
Oh, the club.
He was at the door.
And of course,
Okay, the club was past capacity.
What happened?
You know what I'm saying?
The 2-minute warning.
So he get to hollering and screaming, talking crazy.
This is not strong.
And I'm standing right there, you know, he spit on me.
Wants to make sure that
You know what I'm saying? He got the rings on with the little spikes on him and everything, and he's whooping. So you know what I'm saying? Okay.
More importantly,
I ain't got nothing to say.
the media is providing it to the American people who are
And that was
watching
the end of
this
that.
in
You know,
very
bam,
large
bam, bam.
numbers. And if you're choosing to watch it with us here,
Before you
on Live
bam,
Now
bam me, I'ma
Fox, thank
bam,
so
bam
much for
you.
doing that.
And that's what happened.
To cover this all throughout the day.
What's this
and
change?
information.
I got to think before I answer
These
some of these
comments from
questions.
President Trump are going to be.
I mean, this is way past the statute of limitations. I don't know somebody somewhere is jotting this shit down like, we're going to get your ass for something.
As the day does
He
progress,
got his tag
we'll of
too.
course bring those
Did he get
to
it
you
back
as they
eventually?
do come into
He probably
our
did.
newsroom.
Okay. He probably did. I'm quite sure he did. I think he got it. He got that chain
Okay,
back.
and my producer
Because, you know,
Ryan
he
here
wound up
just
with it.
saying that
He
there is a
won.
photo that it looks like we
Some
have
kind of, I
on
think he did
social
get that
that
chain back.
does
But,
actually show Maduro
wouldn't
in
none of that
custody. This
happen.
would be the first of the photos released. She's working to pull it up for me right now so we can show it to you at home as we await President Trump making his remarks. And of course, we're doing this all
There we go.
live here. So
There we go. For on the build to smash the like button, man. Yo, President Trump, the gangster, the big U.S. gangster.
Coming in from Truth Social. Big thank you to Ryan, producer here at Live Now from Fox.
They went over there to Venezuela and bombed, man.
Nicolas Maduro's eyes are covered here. He has a bottle of water in his hand, and it says Nicolas Maduro on board the USS warship there. That
He's
is
on the
bringing him
warship.
over to New York. We know that's where he's indicted, so we definitely wanted to bring this post to you here.
Yeah, they went to an international foreign country
Find that and pull it in. But again,
and bombed on them.
first
Took their president,
that we
man.
have seen of Maduro in custody.
Yo,
Just
Trump
coming in
moving
as
different out here, y'all.
our travel
Put in the
friend
comment
has
section, man.
over to New York
Put it in the
for
comment
a
section, man.
indictment.
Yo, YouTube, put this out in the algorithm, man.
Update just yet on the timing of when all of this should
We don't want it in the sit around jealous ass boxing section, man. Put this out there, man, with the people that is in tune with what's going on in the world, right? Put it out there with them, man. I'm ready to build with some of them right now, man. I'm done wasting my time. Like this dude right here said, Trump is doing what he wants. I'm over it. No faith in the present cabinet. Okay, that's how you feel. Thank you for your opinion.
The second it does begin, I promise you will not miss any of this.
We're still waiting to hear from Trump, man. I'm gonna stay live at the desk until we hear from Trump, man.
And it does look like President Trump did release that image that I told you about of Maduro and showed you, but also video of the strikes themselves that he posted moments ago on Truth Social. We've seen a lot of the different videos, kind of short clips that have come in, but he did also release video that shows the explosions here. I'm going to work to pull that up for you here on your screen as well, as we do await the comments from President Trump and Secretary Hegseth.
Stop letting the dog take your food, man. Stop letting the dog take your food. Nah, man, you let the dog take your food, man. I know what's going on.
And unfortunately, not able to pull it up just yet. As I mentioned, our producer Ryan is working on
trying to play victim.
To you as soon as we get it.
Stop letting Jackie debo your food.
More context on
See what's going on now.
And if you aren't just joining us, we are just past the half-hour mark. It is 11:31 on the East Coast and 8:31 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and we've been here all throughout the morning with the help of my colleague, Christy Mattino, and our wonderful producers here, Markima and Ryan.
Yo, my cat, we letting my dog debo her food.
As well, so we can bring it to you first here on Live Now. As we await
she's
the
trying to play
comments from
victim.
President Trump, which should be taking place here in just a matter of moments, you can see the podium has been set up. This was slated for 11 a.m. Eastern time, and right now we are about 32 minutes after that.
So they running late, man.
5-minute warning, and then
Yeah, they running late.
He received a 2-minute warning.
Yeah, they running late, man.
The reason behind the delay, but we are still awaiting.
They running late, man.
This up on your screen, you can see the reporters who are.
Yo, this we at the desk, man.
In Mar-a-Lago, including Lucas Tomlinson with Fox News, who is kind of there.
We at the desk, y'all.
He's posting all over Twitter or X, depending what you call it. So you can actually check out his posts as well, and we're bringing those to you as soon as he provides that information. Now, I also
this is an act of war, y'all.
Posts that are coming in from different lawmakers as they react. We're talking both Republicans and Democrats, and of course,
Yeah, there's a lot of people that's like, what's my man's name right here? Stanger. They're upset.
Come out against it is Thomas Massey, who has been a big critic of.
They are upset,
over the last several months,
but there are a lot of people that are feeling what Trump is doing, man. Make America great again.
To the pathetically weak and hand-wringing liberal Democrats who seem to be okay with a perpetual drug caliphate in our backyard, the centerpiece of which is Venezuela.
Yeah, me personally, as somebody that
our military
look,
under President Trump's command, bringing the capture.
You know, I just got in. I just put my gun up, right? I just put my gun up, right? As somebody that moves like how Trump is moving out here, I respect it. Right? I respect it, man. Go get your gun. I respect it, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I respect it, man. We have the right to bear arms. I respect it, man. You got to protect yours, man. You heard? Look, you gotta protect yours, man.
Again, if you are just joining us,
you gotta protect yours.
Over Mar-a-Lago at this hour, you can see members of the media are there. They are lined up and ready to go. We should be getting another warning coming up soon.
Another warning. Trump was giving them warnings, right?
Latest timing for this news conference slated for 11:30.
Yo, they ain't think he was about that, man.
Essentially,
they ain't think he was about that, man.
About 34 minutes behind, and we know that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth will also be
Secretary of War.
Are doing kind of a final briefing, an update here for all of the folks that will be involved in this effort here. And really briefly, I know I don't really want to go away from this shot because I want to make sure that we keep it up so we see as President Trump does enter into the room. We do have this live image that is over, looks like it's in the area of Venezuela where you can see what looks to be a heavy military presence at this hour. We're getting a lot of these live images, and we've also seen a lot of folks who have essentially been gathering in large groups. We're talking tens, hundreds, thousands of people who are all over the place as they are essentially gathering, trying to figure out what's going on. Earlier, it appeared that many of them were supporters of Maduro. However, what we've heard now is that a lot of those people who are there were just essentially trying to figure out what was going on. They heard that the situation, had unfolded, but weren't sure on the details. So that's why they gathered in the streets so they could speak to people. Some of them were holding signs, though, in support of Maduro. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, a Democrat, saying Trump promised no, quote, new stupid wars, yet he's starting one with Venezuela without congressional approval. People can't afford groceries and millions are losing health care, but this is where his focus is. This is unconstitutional and not what the American people asked for, end quote. Republicans showing the praise for this and Democrats continuing overall to show their opposition to it. We will have several of those lawmakers on throughout the day and be in touch with them so we can bring you all of the latest information. And of course, we're keeping an eye on different developments in the situation here, things that President Trump has and has not said just yet. As I mentioned, the president did post a photo on social media showing Maduro wearing a sweatsuit and a blindfold with the caption here. It does say Nicolas Maduro on board that warship. Going to pop it up for you right here on your screen. That is the first photo that has been released by U.S. officials showing.
He got on some sweats, man.
Is on that U.S.
He got on some sweats. Look.
Where he has been indicted. He and his wife both indicted and expected to face some serious charges there. Not quite clear if we are going to get any sort of live images from inside the courtroom when they arrive, or even images that show their arrival. However, anything we get, we're going to.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? Yo, they indicted his wife.
Fox, that is what they do.
They indicted his wife as well.
President Trump telling Fox News a bit earlier on today that he actually spoke to Maduro several times, including most recently about a week ago. Maduro denied that in an interview on New Year's Eve, saying he had only spoken to Trump in November, but President Trump did say that he spoke with Maduro about a week ago, and Maduro said he was not going to surrender. So the next step, of course, was to go in and seize Maduro and his wife, taking them into custody and bringing them back to the U.S. to face the charges.
That's crazy.
We also saw some video of smoke rising from the military base there in Venezuela's capital of Caracas earlier on this morning, and it was one of a number of sites that were hit by those American strikes overnight. Again, I keep saying it, but this all happening just hours ago there. There were bombed buses with shattered windows. There was shrapnel seen next to some charred armored vehicles there, sending up a plume of smoke. There was some fallen street lights, chunks of nearby trees littering the streets, while hefty metal fences and signs were bent at sharp angles following the blast. We also have heard from President Trump as he spoke with Fox News. He did mention here that essentially there were some injured folks out there, U.S. Military personnel, who were injured in the attack. We see President Trump. Let's lift up the audio.
Oh, here he is. Here he is, y'all.
Okay, thank you very much. This is big stuff. We appreciate you being here. Late last night and early today, at my direction,
Here we go.
the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II.
World War II, man.
It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas.
This is live, y'all.
Outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history.
This is live,
And
y'all.
if you think about it, we've done some other good ones.
Yeah, look.
Like the
Yo, Trump went over there like this. You remember that scene in The Wire where Avon was about to run down on the rim shop? That's what this is like. But they're not gonna say it like that. When Avon and Marlo went to war, that's what Trump just did, man.
An operation known as Midnight Hammer,
Midnight Hammer.
all perfectly executed and done. no nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period.
See, that's what it was about, flexing.
All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was
they was laying shit down, man. Yeah, that was that was the SEALs, the Raiders, the Berets. That was the elite. Yeah, they was laying shit down.
It was dark. It was deadly.
Yes, it was that. See what I said, right?
Captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now faced American justice.
Yeah, they was laying shit down, y'all.
Indicted in the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, like never before. These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement.
Yeah, that's why I got my gun out, man. That was gangster military takeover shit.
Many ships out in the sea were just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming, so they were in a ready.
They was ready.
Position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military.
I got some fire beef links cooking.
Capabilities and skills our enemies can.
I got the beef links cooking, y'all.
Best equipment anywhere in the world.
Smash the like button, man. We at the desk, man.
And you see that, even if you just look at the boats, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average, 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and
See, you heard that? They're gonna run the country over there.
can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it essentially until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping. and what could have taken place.
Yes, sir. Y'all hear what's going on, man? This is about oil and drugs. Hopefully, y'all are catching that, man. This is about oil and drugs, really. Oil and drugs, which is big money.
And start making money for the country.
Oh man, did I just say that money?
We are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so.
Damn, look, they ready to bomb back on them again. Man, this is war, y'all.
To do so, we actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second.
This is war, y'all.
A second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans, hundreds and thousands over the years of Americans died because of it.
Yeah, Trump went over there with his gun out. With his gun out, man. Putting down law.
On American soil. Right now, they're on a ship. They'll be heading to, ultimately, New York.
New York, baby.
And then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami. People where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power.
He's staying in power, yeah.
A ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over in particular the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang, Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers of people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete, and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job.
Yeah, did y'all see my
Washington, D.C., where we have
my post about the Seymours?
Was one of the most unsafe.
About the Seymours?
Anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago. A little bit of a different kind of a threat. But we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have on average two a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They're walking their daughters, they're walking their children, their wives, they walk to restaurants. Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National Guard. I want to thank our military, and I want to thank law enforcement. It's been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know. We're doing it. It started few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him, as you know, in a certain very nice part of Louisiana, and we have done that. It was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing, and we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in Chicago, and crime went down a little bit there. We did a very small help because we had we had the governor was a disaster and the mayor was a disaster, but it knocked down crime. But we're pulling out of there when they need us. We'll know. You'll know. You'll be writing about it. And likewise, Los Angeles, where we saved Los Angeles early on, where the head of the police department made a statement that if the federal government didn't come in, we would have lost Los Angeles. That's long after the fires. That's when they had the riots in Los Angeles. We did a great job. Got no credit for it whatsoever, but okay, it doesn't matter. We don't need the credit. But we'll be pulling out when they need us. They'll call, or we'll go back if we have to. We'll go back. But we did a great job in various cities. But the place that we're very proud of is Washington, D.C., because it's our nation's capital. We took it from being a crime-ridden mess to being one of the safest cities in the country. But the gangs they said, raped, tortured, and murdered American women and children. They were in all of the cities I mentioned, Trinidad, and they were sent by Maduro to terrorize our people, and now Maduro will never again be able to threaten an American citizen or anybody from Venezuela. There will no longer be threats. For years, I've highlighted the stories of those innocent Americans' lives were so heartlessly robbed by this Venezuelan terrorist organization. Really one of the worst. One of the worst, they say the worst. Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungari from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungari, what happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Trinidad animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. It was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons, a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States, but no longer. And we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and sold American oil. Billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it. And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill. And the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country. Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, and we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something about it. America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people and drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did.
Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries. And not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Monroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So just in concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is very different than it was just a short while ago. The future will be, and we did this in my first term. We had great dominance in my first term, and we have far greater dominance right now. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs they made our country rich, and they've made our national security stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. And we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders. We will stop the terrorists. We will crash the cartels, and we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever to defend America, but I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until the United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just, fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone in Venezuela. People are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free. America is a safer nation this morning. It's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's a fantastic man. I've worked with a lot of generals. I worked with some I didn't like. I worked with some I didn't respect. I worked with some that just weren't good. But this guy is fantastic. I watched last night one of the most precise attacks on sovereignty. I mean, it was an attack for justice. And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who I'm going to ask to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Explain how the U.S. will run Venezuela. Well, thank you, Mr. President. Finally, a commander-in-chief the world respects and the American people deserve. And as the president said, words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation. A massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest Americans our country has to offer. American warriors are second to none, the best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit.
Sheer guts and grit
of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled by such men, and I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raisin Kane, and all those Americans who stood watch last night. Our warriors are the elite of America, and again, President Trump has your back. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off. And no other president has ever shown this kind of leadership, courage, and resolve. The most powerful combination the world has ever seen. As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people. Deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us. And deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026. And under President Trump, America is back. I'd like to welcome now our Chairman Raisin Kane, to give a few more details about the operation. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. Last night, on the order of the President of the United States, and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, as the President said, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd, and was a culmination of months of planning and rehearsal, an operation that, frankly, only the United States military could undertake. What I'd like to do this morning is talk you through some of the preparation and the details without compromising any of our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There is always a chance that we'll be tasked to do this type of mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists, and we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years, many missions over these last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States
YouTube policies.
It required the utmost of precision.
President Trump moving like a gangster, man.
And the word
shadow company
does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction so precise, it involved more than
President Trump moving like a gangster,
launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose: to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise. Failure of one component of this well-oiled machine would have endangered the entire mission, and failure is never an option for America's joint force. Those in the air over Caracas last night were willing to give their lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters. Let me talk a little bit about the preparation. After months of work by our intelligence teammates to find Maduro and understand how he moved, where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets, in early December, our force was set pending a series of aligned events. Key was choosing the right day to minimize the potential for civilian harm and maximize the element of surprise and minimize the harm to the indicted personnel, so as the president said, that could be brought to justice. And as the president said earlier today, weather in Venezuela is always a factor this time of the year. And over the weeks through Christmas and New Year's, the men and women of the United States military sat ready, patiently waiting for the right triggers to be met and the president to order us into action. Last night, the weather broke just enough, clearing a path that only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through. Ocean, mountain, low cloud ceilings, but when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time last night, the president ordered the United States military to move forward with this mission. He said to us, and we appreciate it, Mr. President, good luck and Godspeed. And those words were transmitted to the entire joint force. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours of experience were airborne. Our youngest crew member was 20, and our oldest crew member was 49, and there's simply no match for American military might. As the night began, the helicopters took off with the extraction force, which included law enforcement officers, and began their flight into Venezuela at 100 feet above the water. As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the Air National Guard. The force included F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, EA-18s, E-2s, B-1 bombers, and other support aircraft, as well as numerous remotely piloted drones. As the force began to approach Caracas, the Joint Air Component began dismantling and disabling the air defense systems in Venezuela, employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area. The goal of our air component was, and always will be to protect the helicopters and the ground force and get them to the target and get them home. As the force crossed the last point of high terrain where they'd been hiding in the clutter, we assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise. As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m.
Man, they breaking it down how they turned it up.
A.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective, and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit, but remained flyable, and as the president said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home, and that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and
Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna make a movie out of this shit.
provided
Yeah.
real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by.
You know how many people they probably laid down?
Assisted by our incredible
They was getting busy.
professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life.
Yeah, they was getting
After
busy,
securing
y'all.
the indicted persons, the force began to prep for departure. Helicopters were called in to exfiltrate the extraction force, while fighter aircraft and remotely piloted aircraft provided overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw out of Venezuela. The force successfully exfiltrated and returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board. And both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima. In closing, what we've witnessed today is a powerful demonstration of America's joint force. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong. Our jobs are to integrate combat power so when the order comes, we can deliver overwhelming force at the time and the place of our choosing against any foe anywhere in the world. I am immensely proud today of our joint force and filled with gratitude to represent them here today. There is simply no mission too difficult for these incredible professionals and the families that stand by them and support them. As we stand here this morning, our forces remain in the region at a high state of readiness, prepared to project power, defend themselves, and our interests in the region. This operation is a testament to the dedication and unwavering commitment to justice and our resolve to hold accountable those who threaten peace and stability. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brave men and women who executed this mission. Their courage and tireless commitment to our nation are what makes us strong. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Mr.
Y'all
President.
burnt my hand a little bit, man. That pot was hot. I didn't think that pot was that hot, man.
Nicolas Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognize him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we say $50 million. And sure. Yeah, exactly. But
don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight.
They swarmed him,
You have
y'all.
a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player.
It's not. Trump is a gangster, man.
He's going to address a problem. He means it. He actions it.
Trump is a gangster, y'all.
14, 15 years been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States. And the president addressed it. This is a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now, very happy, but instead he wanted to play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think the message here should be for the world. But the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk and meet with anybody, but don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that I guess that lesson was learned last night, and we hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
Mr. President.
You said that the U.S. is going to run Venezuela. So who's in power right now?
Well, we're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but it's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil.
Yeah, look, this is my first meal of the day right here. My eggs, look.
But we're going to run it properly. We're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of. Well, they always say boots on the ground. So we're not afraid.
Boots on the ground, man.
We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not
Yo,
afraid.
Trump is a gangster, man.
But we're going to make sure that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly.
Could have.
We could have lost a lot of people last night.
That's a fact.
That's
a fact, man.
A lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to.
Oh,
We're going to
man.
run the country right. It's going to run very.
Yo, you heard what he said? He said, yo, they ready to go again, man.
We're going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. They stole our oil. We built.
This was over oil and drugs, yo.
And they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had
Right.
a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about
Oil
it.
and drugs,
We
man.
did something about it. Yeah, please.
The exact mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
It's all being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking.
Oil
to
and
people.
drugs,
We're
man.
designating, various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
That would run Venezuela.
Well, it's largely going to be for a period of time. The people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. We're going to be
Attacks of war.
It's a dead. You're not talking about
War, man.
a year and a half ago.
Now look,
dead country.
if I wasn't in here, if I was on here, this is how backwards,
Country doing better than
right?
any country anywhere in the world.
This shit right here is about to affect
Require
the economy. Already is.
Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there. A lot
It's
of
gonna
bad
affect the
people
economy,
shouldn't be leading. I could take a chance at
right?
those people.
What y'all talking about today, man?
So you can look at and others. We're fantastic people, including people in the military, be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela? Or how do you foresee the relationship?
I understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He's just had a conversation with her. And she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Make it great again, y'all. You heard that?
Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today, he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So, just what your message is
Well,
about
he
that.
has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
Did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved.
We call members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be
trigger-based mission.
We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
It endangers the mission, yeah.
One thing to that, Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good. If they leaked, General, I think it would have been maybe a very different result. But I have to say, they knew we were coming at some point, you know. A lot of ships out there, they sort of knew we were coming.
It was coming, huh?
But Congress will leak, and we don't want leakers.
You were one of the only people to watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering it?
It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. You know, a safe place is all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because
He couldn't make it through the door. You heard what he said?
The opposition so fast. And there was a lot of opposition. You know, people were wondering, do we get him by surprise? Sort of surprised, but they were waiting for something. It was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. But he was trying to get to his safe place, which wasn't safe because we would have had the door blown up and
man. Yo, Trump ain't playing, man.
They say on average.
Yo, Trump ain't playing, man.
How thick the steel was. It was a very thick door. It was a very heavy door, but he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it.
He was trying to get away, y'all.
Where is Maduro going to be in the time being?
He was trying to get away, y'all.
In the near future, he's going to be brought to New York.
And where is he going to be held? Where is he going to be held in New York?
It's going to be up to the officials that do these things.
Yeah, he was trying to get away, y'all.
Something of a mixed track record of ousting dictators without necessarily a plan for what comes afterwards. Did that weigh on your decision?
Well, that's when we had different presidents, but with me, that's not true. With me, we've had a perfect track record of winning. We win a lot, and we win. If you look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, you look at...
Yeah, he was trying to get away, y'all.
Midnight Hammer was incredible. Right now, you would...
Midnight Hammer, they're going to make a movie out of this, y'all.
Peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't successful with Midnight Hammer, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. So with me, you've had a lot of victory. You've had only victories. You've had no losses yet.
President, can you? How long do you expect the U.S. to run Venezuela, and how soon do you want Venezuelan people to hold elections?
So I'd like to do it quickly, but it takes a period of time. You know, we're rebuilding. We have to rebuild their whole infrastructure. The infrastructure is rotted. It's actually very dangerous. It's a blow up territory. Oil is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to take out of the ground. It can kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people doing just that. The infrastructure is old. It's rotted. Much of it is stuff that we put there 25 years ago, and we're going to be replacing it. And we're going to take a lot of money out so that we can take care of the country. Yeah.
Mr. President, China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect your relationships with them when
Well,
it
in
comes
terms
to
of
oil
China
itself?
and Russia, Russia when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to get it. In other words, we'll be selling.
They're in the oil business. I told you this was over oil, drugs, and oil, man. Hit the like button, man.
So we'll be
Hit the like button. We at the desk, man.
to other countries.
We at the desk.
Using it now, but I would say
Trump and them bombed on Venezuela, man.
Mr. President, are you saying that? Oh.
They bombed on them, man.
What is your message to the people of Venezuela today? Of course, the civilian population specifically, they have a lot of questions. What is your message to the people of
that
Venezuela?
you're going to have peace, justice. You're going to have some of the riches that you should have.
Yeah, they have peace, justice.
From you. But you're going to have peace, and you're going to have safety. You're going to have justice. You're going to have a country. You're going to have a real country.
real country.
Essentially a great country. You know, if you go back 20 years, maybe even a little longer ago, that was a great country. This election, the United States will be Venezuela on steroids. That's what would have happened. And we
You heard that?
the election.
Venezuela on steroids.
We suffered so badly when you look at the border from 2020. What they did, what Joe Biden administration did,
Joe Biden.
our country should never be forgotten. But if we had to go through another year of that, we wouldn't have.
He said we wouldn't have had a
exactly
country,
where
man.
Venezuela was in terms of, I used to say, if they win Venezuela on steroids, and that's what would have happened.
President, thank you. Are you saying that Secretary Hegseth and Rubio are going to be running Venezuela, and will you be sending in U.S. military
There's
troops
going
to
to be a
provide?
team that's working with the people of Venezuela to make sure that we have Venezuela right. Because for us to just leave, who's going to take over? I mean, there is nobody to take over. You have a vice president who's been appointed by Maduro. And right now she's the vice president, and she's, I guess, the president. She was sworn as president just a little while ago. She had a long conversation with Marco, and she said, "We'll do whatever you need." I think she was quite gracious, but she really doesn't have a choice. We're going to have this done right. We're not going to just do this with Maduro, then leave like everybody else, leave and say, let it go to hell. If we just left, it has zero chance of ever coming back. We'll run it properly. We'll run it professionally. We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world go in and invest billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela. And the biggest beneficiary are going to be the people of Venezuela. And also, I can't stress this strongly enough, the people that got thrown out of Venezuela that are now in the United States, and frankly, some want to stay and some probably want to go back. Yeah.
Protect Americans in the country, and were any of the detained Americans?
Well, right now they're very protected because nobody's going to mess with us. They're very protected. The people of, and we let them know that you better not touch one of them.
What are you concerned that bad elements of the Maduro regime will remain in place?
Well, we know who they are. We're on them, and they're acting much differently now than they would have acted 2 days ago. Okay, wait, behind you, please.
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America America first?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important.
Yeah, this was over the bread, man.
We need that for the world.
This was over the bread.
Make sure we can protect it. Yes, sir. Please, go ahead.
Is there a message here for Cuba and Diaz-Canel?
Well, Cuba's an interesting case. Cuba is, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Do you want to say something about that, Marco, please?
Well, I mean, I just gave you a statement a few minutes ago about, when the president speaks, you should take him seriously. So suffice it to say, Cuba is a disaster. It's run by incompetent, senile men, and in some cases, not senile, but incompetent nonetheless. It has no economy. It's in total collapse. And by the way,
it's in total collapse, man.
All the guards that helped protect Maduro, this is well known, their whole spy agency, all that were full of Cubans. I mean, they basically, it's amazing. This poor country over Venezuela in some cases. One of the biggest problems the Venezuelans have is they have to declare independence from Cuba. They tried to basically colonize it from a security standpoint. So, yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned, at least a little bit. Well, the president already announced a week ago that anything that's sanctioned oil, it's not going to be allowed to get there. So that's a pre-existing.
The answer is yes. Yes.
Aware of the location of opposition leader Machado, and have you been in contact with her?
No, we haven't.
On Monday.
Well, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within, or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect.
But is it possible that the U.S. ends up administrating Venezuela for years?
Well, it won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial, so it's not going to cost us anything. We want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That was happening, and you don't want to have that. But
remember, let's not lose sight of that, y'all. I'm gonna stay on
we're not spending
for
money.
2 hours and wrap the desk up. This was over oil
We're going to take back the
and
oil.
drugs.
Frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago.
Oil and drugs,
A lot
y'all.
of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend. So it's going to be a very important. This is a very big evening that took place last night. We have to be surrounded by safe, secure countries, and we also have to have energy. Very important. We have to have energy that's real energy, not where they're getting 4% and 5% of the energy out of the ground. You take a look, it was such a disaster. So what's going to happen with Venezuela, I think, over the next period of a year is going to be a great thing. And the people of Venezuela will be the biggest beneficiaries.
What did you last speak to Maduro about when you spoke? And is the
Well, I don't want to get into the conversations, but I did have conversations with him, and I said, you got to surrender.
You gotta surrender.
And
he didn't want to surrender,
he was
y'all.
close to doing so, but now he wished he did, yeah.
You heard that? Now he wish he did.
Responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras who was convicted of many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations
Well, I endorsed, as you know, the winning president, the man who won in Honduras. I endorsed the man who won in Chile. I endorsed the man who won in Argentina. And we are doing very well with that whole group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a man who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
You referenced boots on the ground earlier. Can you just sort of button this up? Do you envision the U.S. military having a presence in Venezuela as the U.S. runs that?
Well, no, we're going to have a presence in Venezuela as it pertains to oil, because we have to have, we're sending our expertise in. So you may need something, not very much. But no, we're going to be taking out a tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground. And that wealth is going to the people of Venezuela and people from outside of Venezuela that used to be in Venezuela. And it goes also to the United States of America in the form of reimbursement for the damages caused us by that country. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you. Do you have one? Yes.
Yes, it's over. That's it. That's the last question.
I'm going to give you the final question. Good. Unless it's a bad question.
That is the final question, y'all. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this live stream at the desk. If y'all didn't, 2 hours, man. 2 hours of informative international news. International news, man.
I'm not thrilled with Putin. I'm not thrilled with Putin. He's killing too many people. I thought that would be so. I settled 8.
Yeah, this was international news at the desk, man.
Thailand and Cambodia.
International news at the desk today for y'all, man.
And I did it in about 5 hours.
Right.
And I settled it. I'm giving myself.
You do have options, yeah.
8 1/4. In other words, I settled.
You do have options.
They had a pretty bad breakout over the last 4 days. I got them to go back to peace. So I only give 1/4. I thought the easiest one would be, one of the easier ones would be Russia, Ukraine. It's not.
Right.
They both have done some pretty bad things. And look, that's Biden's war. That's not my war. But I want to stop the lives. Did you see where last month, 30,000, it was 27,000 the month before. 30,000, mostly soldiers, were killed.
Did anybody donate to the channel? Right. Monday I did not Monday. Today is Saturday. So Friday, Thursday, New Year's, I did the
and we send them a lot of munitions.
I did the hat giveaway, right, for the highest donation. Today,
the United States is not losing money. We're probably making
I will do the CMOS giveaway.
Last thing I care about. I just want to stop
right,
all
for
those
the highest
25, 30,000
Cash App
They come from two
or
places that are very
Zelle
far away.
donation, right?
But if I can stop because it's
Or
something
even
that's
super chat. We'll add
good
super
at
chat
doing
too.
Deals, I guess it's all a deal. Life is a big deal. But if I can stop
Right.
that war and stop 30,000 young people, in addition to the fact that people are being killed in Kiev, people are being killed in other cities, you know, a much smaller number, but they're being killed, viciously killed. So I'm not happy about it. I thought that would be something that would get solved. We have Mr. Witkoff here. I think that we're making progress, but that's a war that should have never happened.
The highest donation gets the CMOS today, y'all.
Putin says it. Everybody says it.
The highest
I'm a
donation.
president that would have never happened. But I inherited that.
We exposing the hell out of
Zelensky and Putin.
the YouTube donations and all that. The highest donation over here today received some CMOS, man. Yesterday, or Saturday. Thursday, y'all missed out on, merchandise.
That war would not have.
But the highest donation today
that war has become a bloodbath.
would receive
Thank you very much.
some CMOS, y'all.
All right, there you have it.
All right, there you have it. We're gonna wrap it up too.
This administration, we did hear from Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up too. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This was a little bit different. Probably a lot of y'all was in the bushes. Shout out to the ones that did comment, right? But like I said, the boxing weirdo online competitors in competition, y'all probably was just in the bushes, lost in the sauce as usual. Popped up over here, possibly try to steal some content or speaking points, and then realize I wasn't even on no boxing time, right? Then you probably was just lost now. Didn't want to hit the like button. Didn't want to throw $1 in the Cash App. None of that, right? But like I said, stay in the bushes. I don't want your fellowship. We're still growing organically too. And we're going to continue to grow organically. But just be on the lookout for content periodically through the day. I already dropped some stuff from the desk. Maybe I'll go do one at the library, or maybe tomorrow. I don't know. It all depends how I feel, man. But this is the Sauce Experience, the news. And like I said, whoever had the highest donation, you will receive some CMOS, man. You receive some CMOS. You missed out on the merchandise on the hat the other day, man. But yeah, we'll come back on in a little bit with the gossip, the entertainment gossip type of shit. But once again, President Trump flexing hard. The biggest gangster in the world, Donald Trump, with his military, flexing. Bombed on Venezuela, captured their president, and brought him to U.S. justice. How do y'all feel about that, man? Put it in the comment section. But this is the Sauce Experience, the news. By Shanewz. And once again, we want to put this up there. This was fair share, right? Fair share purposes. Be mindful of that. And once again, here's the Cash App for those that want to donate. All right, that is the Cash App right there if you want to donate to the channel. Right, because you do have options, man. But how is the content looking now, man? Happy New Year. Once again, Happy New Year. Salute to everybody that pulled a chair up today. We'll be back on later with the entertainment gossip. That's what that is, entertainment gossip.
Hey guys, this is Tiana Twingo-Heloa. I'm a top-ranked knockout, and I want to give a shout-out to Sauce Talk Podcast.
Thank you. You know the vibes.
This is your boy Jamel Simplified Herring, and I'm with the best in the world, the best from Long Island, the Sauce Talk Podcast. Hey, we doing big things. Shout out to everybody out there in LA as well. Simplified, Salute.
Yes, you know the vibes.